Yo, what's up? This is GBQC. What does GB stand for? Well, GB, let them know what GB stand for.
That's G Bush, man. That's G Bush.
And this is QC. This is our weekly show that we're gonna do here every Sunday. First part gonna drop on my channel. Second part, gotta go to G Bush's channel. So make sure you check it out there if you want to see the full interview that we go there. And on the second part, we might get GB13. We don't know. We figuring it out. We gonna figure
Yeah.
out the flow. It's gonna be some shop talk there, but we gonna do it all. But right now, we're here to talk about this Browns Cardinals game. And G, this is an interesting one. I'm a firm believer in football. Styles make fights. And I thought last week, looking at the style that the Chargers played, that wasn't an advantageous style for how this Cleveland Browns defense plays, right? They like to stretch you vertically. But now when I'm looking at this Cliff Kingsbury offense, and I see how they play, I think this is a game where you can get JOK on the boundary. You can get Malcolm Smith on the boundary and really have a solid effort out there defensively, even though this might be a better offensive unit on paper than what the Browns played this week. Because again, to me, them styles make fights. Now we don't know who's gonna play because the injury report is like 30 deep on both sides right now.
Man.
So who knows who's gonna play right now? But when you look at this from just a game plan standpoint, strategically, I think the Browns match up very well with the Cardinals.
When you look at it, I think more than ever the Browns' speed matches up with the Cardinals when they look at the offense versus the defense. In past years, when we used to play the Cardinals or the Browns used to play teams, especially at linebacker, the Browns weren't able to match up. But now you have guys like JOK. You have the guys in the secondary and especially up front that can match speed for speed and skill for skill in terms of what they can do. Now, here's the problem for me, and I think that we'll probably end up talking about this. Kyler Murray has a very unique skill set. To me, he's one of the guys that scares the living daylights out of me because he extends plays, and with the Browns moving around and moving parts in the back end, that scares me. We've blown coverages against the Ravens, blown some coverages against the Chiefs, blown some coverages last week against the Chargers. So for me, that's what they do best is he moves around and he can actually run and hurt you a little bit too. However, I think if the Browns are able to put some pressure on him to make sure that he can't get out of the pocket, to make sure that they can contain rush, I think they got exactly what they need up front, especially if Jadeveon Clowney is able to play and utilize some of the three defensive end fronts up there with Myles Garrett. So I think they can match them speed for speed, skill for skill. It's just all about keeping those rush contained lanes and getting their speed on the field.
Yeah, see, one of the things with the Cardinals and why I think they're a good matchup, if you see how they line up, they're always in that 3-by-1, the trips right with DeAndre Hopkins on the left. For me, that's a lot less complicated for this secondary to cover and to figure out who's going to go where than what the Chargers did, where they just put anybody anywhere. I mean, like it looked like Mike Williams had the invisible cloak from Harry Potter in the third quarter and fourth quarter of that game last because they couldn't find him on the field, right? And he was just running open all the time. That's the level of confusion that I think you can get out of this defense that the Cardinals just aren't really built to do here, right? Like they're going to do them 3-by-1s. They're going to do a ton of screens. And then one thing we know about this defense, they can crash down and be real athletic on those screens and real aggressive on them. JOK is a monster in that boundary field area. So for you defensively, is there a secret player here that you think is going to have a really big game? Is it going to be like a Malik McDowell? Is there a guy that's going to come under the radar and really make his impact felt?
You already kind of mentioned him. I like Malcolm Smith getting more playing time more than Anthony Walker. I think when you saw a little bit of is in the Chargers game, I think they victimized Anthony Walker a little bit, and Malcolm Smith is a guy who I think he's more of an unsung hero. Like he's never really had any ability or an opportunity to just straight up start or just be like, hey, I'm a guy that y'all could plug in and play. I think that's a guy that could be able to come out here and do his thing. I thought for the most part, Greedy Williams for the last couple of weeks have played very well. Going back, he had 8 tackles, had a pass breakup, only gave up 40 something yards in the game against the Chargers. I thought he played very well. So I think if those two guys can play, I don't know if Greedy, because he's one of the guys that's banged up like 45 people, but I don't know if he's going to play. But I think Malcolm Smith is going to be a guy that you should look forward to, because I think he can give you some speed. I think he knows, as being a guy who can diagnose and read plays, because he's been on the field. He's a veteran. He knows what to look for. I think he can be a guy that can play in one of these sideline to sideline type games.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's more apt for that. And I think just his defense overall is more apt for that. Like last week, I mean, we saw all kind of miscommunication.
It was just crazy. It was crazy. And by the way, Mike Williams, he had more than that Harry Potter cloak. He had he had the tail for Mario's 3. He had the star. He had the spit power. He actually had 3 banana peels too, because nobody could cover him from Mario Kart 2. He was just doing everything he wanted to.
Yeah, 2 of his touchdowns only made sense to me if the player in front of him just could not see him. Like that's the only way. The way that was made sense to me. It was a mess out there. Now a lot of that had to do with them rotating guys in and out. You had AJ Green out there for extended snaps, and these are guys who haven't played that much together. And I think another part of it was, I think they maybe made some changes overall with how they communicate the defense out there late in the practice week without guys actually being on the field to practice it. And you learned the hard way. Sometimes it ain't gonna work out like it does on paper, right? I know John Johnson used to be a green dot out there in LA.
Yeah.
But
him and Ronnie Harrison had a miscommunication when you're playing quarters. You're playing quarters out there, and they got mixed up on a 3-by-1 coverage. And Mike Williams runs it, and it looks like Ronnie Harrison just pretty much his guy blocks, and he just was like, okay, I'm just gonna just double team over here on the guy over to the single receiver side, and you're like, okay, Ronnie Harrison, you got deep fourth right here, one of the quarters, and it's just those things can't happen, especially when you're playing against teams that have athletes and ball players like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and now you're going to see a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. So we got to get that cleaned up.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot to talk about there. It's weird because we can't get a grasp on this defense at all, right? Like 2 great performances, 2 pretty mediocre performances, and then 1, it was the Chiefs. What you gonna do? Yeah. But it's hard to get a grasp on how they play now. With Clowney coming back, hopefully that makes a difference there too. But I think this is going to be a game where I think the defense can show a lot of people what they're capable of when the team plays more into their hands. Now they gotta get that deep ball stuff figured out, right? That communication can't be that bad for the rest of the year. Like you got to figure it out between now and when you start playing Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, especially Cincinnati, because they'll stretch you out vertically too. They'll throw the thing up to Jamar Chase whenever they want, and Jamar's good enough to go out there and get it. So it is a thing out there that you have to worry about if you're a Browns fan. But let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the offense here. The offense for a team to put up 42 points has gotten a ton of flack. And I think some of it's warranted, right? Like, I think that speaks to where the bar is set for this offense, right? Yeah. Like, I did my grades and I gave this offense like a C+, and people were mad at me and they were like, oh, well, they're doing this and they're this and that category. And I'm like, look, they're a C+ right now because they're not performing anywhere near where they're capable of performing. And if you're telling me you're looking at this Cleveland Browns offense, only giving Odell 3 targets, not being able to push the ball down the field at the end of the game and telling me that's all this Browns offense can do, that's not a Super Bowl level team. So I firmly believe that this is a Super Bowl caliber offense. And I think they're capable of performing on that level. I think they just haven't been, right? We could talk about the labor room. We talked about the labor room before, right? With Baker. Yeah. Oh, is it the labor room? Then Baker goes out there, throws 300 yards, 71% completion. Don't look like the labor was affecting him to the point where he can't play football. So that excuse is kind of gone to me. Like, maybe it limits what you can do with them, but I didn't see any reason to have him limited. His deep ball looked good. So if they're running out there limited, that's on Kevin Stefanski. You know what I mean? The run game came back to looking like the run game, right? I think I talked about that when I was on the show with you on Saturday last week. The run game ain't looked like the run game. They came back, looked like the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to figure this out between what's going on in this offense and the wide receivers, because they were able to hit wide receivers last year.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying the argument that just because Odell's out there, you can't hit wide receivers all of a sudden. That to me is baloney. So to me, it seems like it's a play calling thing. It's a offensive mindset to where they just don't want to put the ball at risk, so they don't let them throw to the wide receivers. But here's my thing with Baker Mayfield. You can think Baker Mayfield's franchise. You can think Baker Mayfield's top 10, whatever you think of Baker Mayfield, positively or negatively. The one thing I have been 100% consistent about with him is that he's not the type of dude that you can put handcuffs on and expect to be himself, right? Like, he's not going to be the guy who's going to want to take the check down. And if you turn him into that guy, you're doing yourself a disservice, because we know when Baker lets it loose, when Baker starts to take risk with the ball and try to fit them windows, that's when we look at Baker Mayfield and go, that's a franchise quarterback. That's the dude that we drafted number 1 overall. But right now, to me, in my eye, they're not letting him attack those windows or be aggressive enough. And we're seeing passive Baker Mayfield. And passive Baker Mayfield is just a strong arm version of Case Keenum. It's not the best we can get out of him, right? Like right now with the Browns,
strong arm Casey Keenum.
Yeah, that's how they're using them. That's not gonna that's why when people watch these games with Baker Mayfield, the way that they're played, Browns fans are upset that people are like, oh, Baker Mayfield looks like a game manager. He looks average. Well, they're calling the game as if he is. And last year, they did the same thing at the beginning of the season. Scared to death of Baker Mayfield throwing the interceptions. And then at the end of the year, where they really ain't have no choice because everybody got injured and they had to let it loose, and Baker let it loose, what did we find out? Oh, Baker can make all of these throws. Like, it's not risky at all with him because he is that accurate. He is that good. He has that arm talent. So right now, what's frustrating to me is you're having your quarterback look like something he's not, because you're calling a game trying to make him be something he's not. He's not going to be low risk guy. He's a gunslinger. He's going to take some shots. And I think it's up to Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, and Alex Van Pelt to understand that and live with the risk. Like, if Baker throws 10 interceptions this year, cool, fine. But I'm pretty sure if he throws 10, he's going to give you 30 touchdowns, right? Because we know what he's like when he's confident and he's ripping and he's taking risks. Baker is not a dude who's going to diagnose the defense perfectly and make the perfect read all the time. He's not Tom Brady. What he is a dude who's talented enough that he can fit the ball into a window that he probably ain't supposed to throw into. But because he's Baker Mayfield and because he has that arm talent, he can make that play. And I think that's the biggest misunderstanding right now that Browns fans, and I think even the Browns coaches, have of their quarterback and who he is. I'm not speaking to how good he is. I think he's a top 10 quarterback when he's playing like he can play. But right now, they're not even giving him the opportunity to do that. I mean, that 2-minute drill at the end of the game said everything I needed to know about, for whatever reason, are they not trusting him? I don't think it's that they don't trust him. I think it's that they don't trust some things around him, right? The offensive line, I don't think they trust that as much as they did last year right now with Hudson and Hanson there. But at the end of the day, you got to let dudes be able to prove that to you. And that's what makes me upset, right? There was one play I pointed out in my film review where Odell was, he had tight coverage in the cover 2. He was running a comeback. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know why in that offense, if you see Odell with somebody pressing him, the first read doesn't automatically change to let's peek over there, right? Like that. Yeah. You don't gotta make it a full read, but
ASAP.
Peek.
That's supposed to be automatic.
Yeah, peek, see if he beats him off the line of scrimmage. If he does, give him that ball real quick, right? Because Odell can make a play. But instead, it's so structured that Baker doesn't even peek. He's out there focused on the right side of the field, and he's going to throw this out to Rashard Higgins, which was a completion. But Odell maybe could have got you like a 20-yard chunk on that play because they left him there. And that's what defenses are figuring out. The Odell decoy thing ain't working just because they know that Baker's not going to look there because he's told not to at some points.
You hit on something that's really dynamic right there. I don't think very many people have really touched on this in the media or fans in general. is that you can't change a tiger's stripes. You are who you are. Jay-Z said, man, you are who you are when you got here, man. You can't expect to change the way that a guy goes about playing the game. Baker Mayfield came into the game playing a certain way. When Baker came in and played so well his rookie year, he came in playing free. He came in spreading the ball around. He had a specific type of bounce to his game, right? And when you get people in your ear and when you get people talking to you, there's one or two things that can happen. They can help you for the better or they can help you for the worse, or they can put ghosts in your ears and you can start seeing stuff that you don't see, and phantom stuff, and feeling pressure. And what you start counting 1, 2, 3, hit to the back foot and throw over here. And am I checking this one? Instead of playing in the flow of the game and it being organic. And right now, I just don't believe that he's playing organically. And you said just something just now. When you look at it, defenses are going to they're designed to give you certain throws, right? So all 300 and 400 games aren't built the same. Somebody can give you a throw and they want you to throw that check down. They want you to hit the Rashard Higgins or the check down out of the backfield, because they're going to say, you know what, in this defense, we're going to give that up. We'll rally to that. We'll tackle that.
Yeah, but we'll give that so you don't press this downfield where we have a real hole.
Where you have a real problem. And if he was to give himself some time playing the flow of the game and then wait for the opportune time, you can really hurt a defense, because now those 20-yard plays down the field, 30-yard passes down the field to Odell, those can be home runs. Those can be big plays. Those can be back-breaking plays. And now your running game looks better because they can't afford to keep those people at the line of scrimmage. So all of those things play into those factors. And the Browns have to be able, at some point in time from now until the rest of the season, they have to be able to do two things. Yes, the running game has to get on track, right? But they also have to be able to hit chunk plays, big plays to receivers, not tight ends, because guess what? They're giving you that stuff to the tight ends and the backs. It's the receivers that hurt you. And that's where the Browns need to get to.
And think about this, Gbush. What were the two big plays that they hit in that game, right? In the passing game, there was the one throw to just Donovan Peoples-Jones, and there was the one throw to David Njoku, right?
Yep.
Look at both them throws. That's Baker throwing into a tight window. That's Baker giving a dude to make a chance to play down on the ball at down the field. And that's what Baker does best. That's how he moves. That's why he was able to move the offense so damn well with Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones most of last year. I think there's this discourse about Baker that gets so people get into their battle stations. Baker's this, Baker's that. And we talk about what he's not, and we don't talk more enough about what he is. And we're not realistic about it, because what Baker is not is Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah.
He's not a dude who's going to be comfortable just throwing checkdowns all the time. He's not a dude that you're going to get the best of when he's throwing checkdowns. Baker, for better or worse, is a guy who's going to die with the deep ball, right? Like, that's when he's at his best. When this offense is moving with dudes that, ain't necessarily made a bunch of names outside of playing with Baker Mayfield, it's because he's taking them shots. It's because Donovan Peoples-Jones made his name last year off a shot chunk play that Baker just threw him up, gave him a play on the ball, right?
Yep.
That's where Baker is at his best. And right now, Baker looks average, right? Because you're cutting off everything that makes him special and not allowing him to do it. Baker is not the greatest, check down artist in football. He's not. You're not going to get the most out of him. What Baker does well, and the reason he was the number 1 overall pick, is because he can attack downfield and he can put up some very, very high chance. I know 50-50 balls is his term, but he can give wide receivers a chance to make a play on the ball. He learned a lot of lessons in 2019 where he threw all them interceptions, but the skill set is still there and it prevails, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. Does Baker Mayfield look average right now? Yes. Like, from watching him, he looks pretty average right now. But why does he look average? It's because he's not capable of more? Hell no. We know Baker's capable of more than this, but it's that they're not really letting him be aggressive. And that's where you get, if Baker Mayfield had a weak arm, he would be an average quarterback.
Yeah.
But the fact that he has a strong and accurate arm is the reason he's above average. And right now, you're not allowing him to do the things that he does above average. It's like having Lamar in an offense to where he can't scramble or pull it out on an RPO and run, right? All of a sudden, Lamar's going to look a lot worse when you don't let him to do the things that he's special at. And that's right now with Kevin Stefanski, whether it's inadvertently, whether it's him trying to protect him because of the injury, whether it's the line, for whatever reason, they're doing this to themselves. And I think they would give themselves a lot better of a chance in a lot of these games if they just went with, hey, Baker, if you think you could take a chance with the ball, take it. We trust you. You know, we're going to let you roll the dice, get your imprint on there. Because I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff with the Odell and Baker thing and why they're not pulling the trigger is coaching. Like, it is Kevin Stefanski saying, hey, if Odell breaks out on a scramble drill, but he's on the other side but open, don't throw it to him because that's too risky of a throw. When we know damn well, Baker, throw that thing to him because you can get it there, right? Like, that's the problem, is that a lot of the stuff that you would get, this chemistry stuff, is kind of ruled out because Baker's told not to do these things. He's told, look for the running back, look for the check down, look for the tight end. Look,
that's not gonna work, and that's not sustainable. Like, and here's I said this the other day when we were putting out the Browns preview show. Here's one thing that people don't think about. Yes, running the ball is great, right? But one of the things that happens as an unintended consequence of running the ball so much is you got to think about the wear and tear that you put on your offensive line. From a standpoint of which is easier to do on your body, running the ball or pass protecting. Pass protecting, you can pass protect all day. Joe Thomas did for years, played game after game after game pass protecting, and he did a beautiful job at it. But look how many linemen we got banged up right now. And it's the sixth game of the year. Jedrick Wills is hurt. Conklin is banged up. The only guy that's really not pretty much banged up is Joe Bitonio. So when you're running the ball and you're running and running and running, that takes a toll on your offensive line. It takes a toll on your running backs. You got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt who haven't practiced as much this week. And those things take your toll. At some point in time, you got to use this guy out there. And you look at Pro Football Focus. According to Pro Football Focus, he's open 72% of the time.
Oh, that was open all the time. Yeah, he's there, and he's getting open on like decoy routes. Like, but when I hear people say Odell's washed, you know what I mean? It drives me crazy because when I watch him, I'm like, this dude's clearly not washed. Like, if he gets traded somewhere, you're gonna be upset because he's gonna put up great numbers because he's still playing at a high level. But sometimes it's the design of the offense. Sometimes it's the design of where the quarterback's told to put his head. Maybe it's the read. Like, I don't know what it is between these two, but I think it's bigger than just those two.
Yeah, I'll say that as well.
Yeah, but that's going to be it for part one. We're going to jump to part two on Gbush's channel, continue the conversation. We're going to talk about all of it. So check us out there.
Peace.